The weather is also very nice here tonight. Rather warm, only 46% humidity, 20% chance of rain, and skies are partly cloudy. Good evening, everybody. I'm Bob Jenkins, and welcome to Winston Cup qualifying. Now, we only do this once a year, a live telecast involving the qualifying for a Winston Cup race. That race will be tomorrow night at 7:30 live here on ESPN. Now, in about an hour from now, we'll also have a live telecast of a Busch Grand National race here at Bristol. Well, what does it mean to win the pole position for a Winston Cup race? Of course, it means you start up front. It also means you're eligible for the Busch Clash in Daytona every February, so there is a lot at stake. With more on what's at stake, let's go to our two pit reporters. First of all, the editor of Stock Car Racing magazine, Dick Berggren.
Well, Bob, as important as winning the pole is, these teams have had not much of an opportunity to prepare for it. Specifically, the track only opened this morning, and there has been only 2 hours of practice. Yet these are professional teams, and 34 of them are ready tonight. Here's what's going to happen. Each driver will get 2 laps around the Bristol Speedway. The fastest of those 2 laps will count, and the fastest driver, why, he will start on the inside front row tomorrow night. Qualifying tonight will lock in the fastest 15 teams. If you're not among the fastest 15, why, they'll have to come back tomorrow afternoon and try again. Of those teams, one of the most interesting is down pit road with Jerry Punch. Jerry?
Well, Dick, you know, Jeff Bodine will strap in this Levi Garrett Chevrolet. He will be the 7th car to make a qualifying effort. You know, he sat on the pole here 3 times, including this event a year ago. But he has yet to win here at Bristol International Raceway. His best finish this race last year, he finished 3rd. But it's the time of year that he likes. It's called short track season on the Winston Cup Tour. 4 of the next 6 events are on the tracks less than 5/8 of a mile. He would like to turn these year around. So would Darrell Waltrip and a lot of others. Maybe it'll happen tonight for Jeff Bodine. Maybe he'll put it on the pole for the 4th time. And maybe tomorrow night he'll get his first win for 1987.
All right, thank you, gentlemen. With me is Larry Newber, who'll be working the booth with me. And as Jerry mentioned, we enter the 2nd short track season of 1987. What has the qualifying proved in the first half of the short track season?
Lots of surprises, Bob. It seems like that we were in the short track season about 100 years ago, but actually it was just the end of April. But in the 4 previous short tracks, there have been 4 surprise qualifiers. Remember Alan Kowicki sitting on the pole. How about Harry Gant right here? Remember Bill Elliott winning at the pole at the short track at North Wilkesboro Speedway. We'd never seen him do that before. And Morgan Shepherd. But what about qualifying? Qualifying is an interesting insight into the sport of motor racing. And don't turn off the screen and come back in an hour for the race, because if you've never watched qualifying, it can give you great insight to what's going on. You must be very fast, but perhaps more importantly, you must be consistent. I'm not talking about from the first lap to the second lap, but consistency within the one single lap. You must be fast all the way around. In the spring, from first to last, the difference, 0.3 of a second.
This special edition of Speed World qualifying for tomorrow night's Busch 500 is being brought to you by Busch Beer, the beer with a taste as smooth as its name. And by Dodge, setting new standards of performance. Raceway, where 34 cars and drivers have drawn for an opportunity to win the pole for tomorrow night's Winston Cup race. Let's go to the pit area. Here's Jerry Punch.
Well, we know Awesome Bill is awesome on the super speedways, but what you may not remember is in this race back in April, he led the most laps, 146, and had his best short track performance of the year. And Bill, the question is, can you duplicate it or can you do better now?
Well, I'd like to do better. I've got, like you said, I got the same car here, and you know, the thing about Bristol is running a night race, it's pretty much a special race, because a lot of things happen, and if you can just stay out of trouble most of the night, you can have a pretty good finish.
Starting up front pretty important to you?
Well, to some extent. The thing about today is they didn't give us but like 2 hours of practice, and it's hard to get everything you need to know in 2 hours, and then qualifying in 2 different circumstances, because we ran in the heat of the day. Now we're qualifying in the cool of the night.
Well, Bill Elliott will start 8th. He will go off the line 8th.
And you can see our first qualifier is moving out onto the racetrack. That is Sterling Marlin. He is from Columbia, Tennessee, driving the Piedmont Oldsmobile, car number 44. Now they'll get 2 laps, and the best of the 2 will count as their official qualifying run.
Bob, in the heat of the day, everybody was turning about 17 fast, 17 flat. I shouldn't say everybody, I should say all the top runners. Most pit Insiders feel, however, that you'll have to go down to about 16.75 in order to get close to the pole. Everybody was talking about Earnhardt, Wallace, and Morgan Shepherd as the potential 3 best.
All right, the first lap of qualifying has been completed for Sterling Marlin, and the time and speed report is 16.75. 16.981 seconds. And that translates to a speed of 112.997 miles an hour. And the second lap is completed, and he picked it up just a little bit on that second lap. The time is 16.904, and the speed on the second lap for Sterling Marlin is 113.512 miles an hour. So for the moment, he's the pole sitter.
During the heat of the day in the spring race here, Harry Gate set a brand new track record at 16.588. That's 115.6 miles per hour. Jeff Bodine was the pole sitter at this night race in 1986. His time 16.73, which interestingly is what we told you earlier, many of the crews think should be good enough tonight.
The number 22 Miller American Buick, driven by Bobby Allison, is now on the racetrack as he finishes lap number 1. His last pole position, by the way, for a Winston Cup race was way back in Richmond in 1982. And the first lap for Bobby Allison is about to be completed. And the checkered flag falls. There it is, 16.99 seconds, speed of 112.92 miles an hour. And his second lap is faster. It is 16.968 and a speed of 113.083.
Now, there was a time for all of you insiders, you know that usually scuffs were put on these cars as they went out to qualify. But again, many of the crews in conversation with them about an hour ago said, hey, we're going to go out with stickers. That means brand new rubber. Goodyear has come here with a different compound that it had in the spring. It's only about 1/30th of an inch as far as that outer layer goes. The crews are not saying that it's necessarily faster, but it's more consistent, and you can put brand new ones on when you go out to qualify.
And here is the pole winner for the Watkins-Glen Winston Cup race that we televised for you a couple of weeks ago. This is Terry Labonte in the Junior Johnson Budweiser Chevy, Corpus Christi, Texas resident. And his first lap is 16.625 seconds. The speed, the fastest so far, 115.417.
Bob, way down there. He has a shot at Harry Gant's track record. He's just 1/10 of a second off of it.
And the second lap
He's done
is
it,
quicker.
Bob. It's a new track record.
It's 16.576, a speed of 115.758 miles an hour, and Terry Labonte has turned in the quickest so far among the three we've had. For the moment, Terry Labonte is on the pole for the Busch 500 tomorrow night. We'll be right back. We'll be live tomorrow night here on ESPN beginning at 7:30 Eastern Time. We hope you'll be with us. And of course, after our qualifying for the Winston Cup race here this evening, we will have the Tri-Cities Pontiac 200 race for the Grand National Division of NASCAR.
Bob, something for the viewers at home to watch for on these qualifying runs is where the drivers position their cars in the track. Is there one specific best line? Not really, because you can get yourself into the ballpark if you're dropping way below the dotted white line on the inside of the racetrack, that you're out of the groove, and if you're significantly above it, you're also out of it. But it depends so much on how the car is set, where the car feels comfortable. And the big task that the driver has is to follow that line on the inside and position the car where it wants to be. Now that line, the dashed highway line on the inside of the track, is the constant radius. It's the consistent distance from the track. You can see the other line, the solid line there, is the entrance to the pits. But that's what that dotted line is, or that dashed line is on the inside. Lets you know how far you are away from the wall at any one point. It is not the best line around the racetrack. That the driver has to determine on his own.
All right, and the first lap for Ronnie Thomas is 17.592 seconds, speed 109.072, and the second lap is faster. Second lap, 17.355, speed 110.562 for Ronnie Thomas from Christiansburg, Virginia. Down to the pit area, and here's Dick.
Well, I'm with the new track record holder, Terry Labonte. Good time, 16.576. You must be very happy.
Well, I am. I'll tell you, the Budweiser Chevy ran super ever since we've been here, and we're off to a good start anyway.
Is this a prediction about tomorrow night?
No, I don't know. I don't make predictions.
Anybody else look strong enough to be able to do what you've done, break the track record?
Well, you know, it's hard to say. There's been several cars that were awful fast in practice. Morgan Shepherd's awful fast, Jeff Bodine, and Dale Earnhardt.
Those are three to watch. Here's the guy right now that's on the pole, Terry Labonte.
All right, and on the racetrack is Michael Waltrip from Owensboro, Kentucky in the All-Pro Auto Parts Chevy. And the first lap of qualifying for him is completed. Pretty good lap, 17.004. And the speed translates to 112.844 miles an hour.
Bob, it seems like a 17 flat lap is probably going to be about the bare minimum if you want a shot at the top 20.
Second lap faster. He's down a 16-second bracket, and he becomes our third quickest qualifier of the evening so far. The second lap was 16.920, and the speed 113.404. And now moving on to the racetrack is Jeff Bodine.
Bodine was the fastest qualifier each of the last two visits, I should say the two visits of 1986, that is, here to the high banks at Bristol. He sat on the pole for the Valleydale 500 in the spring of last year and this race in the fall.
He has won 17 pole positions in his career. His most recent was in Martinsville rather last year. So Jeff Bodine looking for his first pole position of 1987. Here he comes down to take the white flag, and the first lap is completed for Jeff Bodine.
Significantly slower than we expected, Bob.
It is 16.919 seconds. And the speed is 113.411.
Watch for it to be a little quicker this time.
The second lap appeared to be a little quicker. Let's see if it is. Yeah, the second lap is quicker, but not all that impressive. He is second quickest, but considerably off the pace set by Terry Labonte. It's 16.729 and a speed of 114.699.
That is consistent with what we would expect. A little more heat works into the tires on that second lap, and everybody, even though the track is relatively cool because the sun has gone down, the extra heat worked into those tires after one quick lap around this high banks gets you more speed on the second lap.
And on the racetrack is Bill Elliott from Dawsonville, Georgia in the Coors Melling Ford. And Bill's most recent pole position was at Talladega earlier this year. And, of course, he won the pole position for a short track race at North Wilkesboro earlier this year. The white flag falls to starter Harold Kinder, and Bill Elliott has turned in his first qualification lap of the evening. It is just a little over 17 seconds, 17.035, speed 112.639. Elliott not on the pace.
He was the 11th fastest qualifier in the spring race. That was just before that surprising pole at North Wilkes.
Second lap is quicker, but it's only good enough for sixth starting position at this time. It's 16.979, 113.010. Let's go to the pit area once again.
Well, one of the interested spectators, he's a spectator right now. He'll be a driver in a few minutes, is Rusty Wallace. And Rusty, you were on the outside front row back in April, and Labonte has set a time that everyone has to shoot for, 16.576. Can you beat it?
It's going to be close. The car really run good this afternoon in practice, and I qualified at a 16.62 here in April, and it was a lot hotter. It's a lot cooler now, and I think that we got a good chance of picking up a lot for qualifying. So if we're going to sit on a pole again this year, this is as good a chance as any we got right here.
Been a pretty remarkable week for your life. You turned 31 on Saturday. Then last Tuesday, your wife Patty gave birth to your third little boy, your third child rather. I think Stephen William at 10 pounds 3 ounces. It's been a good week for you.
Yeah, I'm real proud. I'm real happy about that. It turned out neat. Patty's looking good, and so is the baby, and we're doing great up here. And like I say hi to him back at home, and so hopefully we're going to set that Kodiak Pontiac in the front row and make it a great week.
Well, you people may want to know what drivers do when they have a weekend off. Let's grab. Here's a guy that has a week off here, just a week off to relax. And where is he? At the racetrack. And Davey, I'd like to ask you who you're pulling for this weekend.
Well, I guess I'm going to sit here and pull for Dad this weekend. We're not racing, and I got a lot of other friends out here, but I'd like to see Dad do good this time.
Well, I'm glad you were able to stay home and relax this weekend and enjoy the weekend off. Davey Allison, driver of the Haviland Ford. We continue qualifying, and looks like Rick Wilson is on the Speedway.
We were just going to say, very nice hat there on the top of Davey Allison's head. On the racetrack is Rick Wilson from Bartow, Florida, in the Kodak Oldsmobile. This will be Rick Wilson's first pole position should he best Terry Labonte's record-setting 115.758. The first lap is not even close to that. It is 17.113, the speed 112.125.
Rick is one of the acknowledged masters of the super speedway high banks, but he does not have nearly as much experience on these. You can see a slightly different line used than Labonte did when he set his fast time.
And it's a little faster. It's 16.989 seconds, and the speed is 112.944. So at the moment, the front row consists of Terry Labonte with a new record and Jeff Bodine. We'll be right back. She is here at Bristol International Raceway for Winston Cup qualifying. Let's go quickly to Jerry Punch.
Well, they're continuing with qualifying quickly. Dale Earnhardt, your shot. You think you got a shot at the pole tonight?
I don't know. Terry on a good lap. We've been running pretty good in practice. It's cooled down a lot and see how much we can pick up.
You feel a little bit better? You've been under the weather for a few days this week.
Well, I've been feeling pretty bad today, but hopefully it'll be all right. Davey practiced my car for tonight's race, so if I need some relief, I'll put him in it.
Well, Dale Earnhardt getting ready to go out, but Alan Kowicki's on the Speedway.
Indeed, in the Xerox Ford, he'll be carrying our Hardee's in-car camera tomorrow night at 7:30 in the Busch 500 Winston Cup race. Alan Kowicki from Milwaukee, actually Greenfield, Wisconsin's first lap is 16.896 seconds. Watch the speed, 113.565.
Excuse me, Bob. Watch Kowicki's line through 3 and 4. He's a little higher than everybody else. That's the old Salem, Winchester, Indiana half-mile line.
Second lap, just a tick of the watch faster. The time is 16.742 and the speed 114.610. And Alan Kowicki becomes our third fastest of the evening. Now, Derek Hope is qualified at 111.042 in his Chevy. Ronnie Tomic rocked in at 110.562. And Troy Beebe, driving DK Ulrich's number 6, is the slowest qualifier so far, 107.786. We've had 11 qualifiers, and Dave Marcus will become our 12th.
Dave Marcus, you can see how much lower on the track he is than what Kowicki was. Dave Marcus has entered races here at the Bristol Raceway 36 times in his career. He's never picked up a win here, but we have seen him run strong, particularly in the Busch Grand National race.
And it's been a long time since Dave was on the pole for a Winston Cup race, dating back to North Wilkesboro in 1982. First lap for Dave Marcus, 16.845, speed 113.909, and Marcus is off of corner number 4, taking the checkered flag, completing the qualification run. And his second lap is slower than the first, and I think that's the first time we've seen that. Yeah, everybody else has improved on their second lap, but not Dave. His second lap, 16.882 with 113.606, so the first lap of 113.909 is the quickest. Jerry Punch.
Well, the winningest driver in Bristol International Raceway history is Darrell Waltrip with 10 wins. And Darrell, good run today, good practice session for the Tide Chevrolet. Can you do it tonight? Can you put it on the front row?
I don't know. We've won practice 2 or 3 times here lately, but we haven't qualified that well. Terry turned a really fast time. Takes all the pressure off. Now I know I got to go run hard as I can. Let this old Chevrolet hang out just a little bit. I think I can do it, but I've been wrong before.
Well, we'll have to wait and see as Darrell waves at Stevie at home and Ricky Rudd's on the Speedway.
Ricky Rudd has turned in his first lap, Bob. He's at 16.777. That is the 4th quick time on his first lap. The car is sticking right down on the bottom of the racetrack. He's got a shot at maybe second.
There you see the speed, 114.371 on lap number 1. The second lap is also slower, just like Dave Marcus. 16.857, speed 113.832, 114.371 will be the official qualifying mark for Ricky Rudd, and he becomes our 4th fastest of the evening. Well, a mixed reaction to Dale Earnhardt's appearance on the racetrack. Some are saying yay, some are not saying yay, but here comes Dale Earnhardt to try to knock Terry Labonte off the pole for the Winston Cup race tomorrow night. He takes the green flag.
The dominant team of 1987. Remember how many poles he has this year, all those wins in races. He's been on the pole once.
There you see the time to beat, 16.576. That was the mark turned in by Terry Labonte a few minutes ago. The first lap for Dale Earnhardt is not there. It's 16.817. Speed 114.099. Earnhardt's going to have to pick up the pace considerably to knock Labonte off the pole position. And the second lap is faster, but not fast enough. It is 16.765 seconds. The speed 114.453, and Earnhardt becomes our 4th fastest qualifier so far. Back in just a moment. Old Tennessee, Harry Gant begins to move out onto the racetrack to take his qualifying run for tomorrow night's Busch 500 Winston Cup race. Now, we've had 14 qualifiers so far. Harry will be the 15th, and remember, we only qualified the fastest 15 tonight. Those qualifying 16 through 34 will have an opportunity to re-qualify and earn a position in second round qualifying tomorrow. So after Harry begins his qualifying run, and a little squirrely there in turn number 2, will begin the bumping process. Meanwhile, Harry Gant has taken the green flag and is about to complete lap number 1. And the first lap for Harry Gant in the number 33 Skoal Bandit Chevrolet is 16.967 seconds. And that is a speed of 113.090.
Remember, he had the brand new track record, the time of 16.5 in the spring race. He would have really liked to perhaps turn this season around here at qualifying at Bristol, but it wasn't to be.
A little faster, though, 16.742, speed 114.610.
Yeah, significantly faster. That bumps Harry up into 4.
Well, look at the crowd rise to its feet and cheer the driver who is on the pole right now. One spectator right ahead of us down in the grandstand has a box of Tide on his head. Driving the Tide Chevrolet is Darrell Waltrip from Franklin, Tennessee. Notice the car bottoming out at some portions on the racetrack down in turns 1 and 2. Darrell has not captured a pole position in 1987. His most recent was at Riverside last year. First lap for Darrell Waltrip, well, not all that impressive, really. It is 16.811 seconds and the speed 114.140.
Temporarily in the 7th quick starting slot. Here comes Waltrip around the complete lap number 2. Hits that high line right along the wall.
Much better.
113.277.
No, it's much slower, I should say. 16.939, 113.277. So he dropped off considerably on that second lap. And Darrell Waltrip, for the moment, positions himself 7th on the grid.
He's between Ricky Rudd and Dave Marcus. Labonte still on top, of course. Jeff Bodine holding 4th and 2nd. And Alan Kowicki, as we look at Benny Parsons, who has moved to the Speedway, is our 3rd best timer.
Now, Benny will be joining us up here in the broadcast booth for our telecast of the Tri-Cities Pontiac Busch Grand National race coming up hopefully in about a half hour. But right now, Benny's job is to get this Folger Chevrolet in the field for tomorrow night's race. Here he is off of corner number 4, taking the white flag. Benny Parsons is halfway through his qualifying run, and the lap is 19.943 seconds and a speed 113.250.
Benny Parsons, when he was winning championships, including the Grand National Championship of NASCAR, he was very steady on this type of racetrack. He raced a lot on high-banked half-mile tracks when he was growing up.
Almost identical laps, but the second one is a little bit slower, 16.946, 113.230. Best lap, 113.250. And here is Rusty Wallace, who won the Watkins Glen Winston Cup race a couple of weekends ago and ran very strong at Michigan last week here on ESPN. As a matter of fact, started from the pole position. That was his first career pole position, and he's looking for number 2 here tonight. He drives the Kodiak Pontiac. Rusty Wallace from St. Louis, Missouri.
And Bob, if you go to the performance recently, and let's make it even more isolated than that, the last 3 races, Rusty Wallace has duplicated the strength of Dale Earnhardt. Wallace has that win. He has been extremely strong in recent weeks. Could he be coming on and have a spectacular second half of the year?
White flag displayed for Rusty Wallace, and the speed is identical to the second lap of Benny Parsons, 16.946 and a 113.230 lap.
Rusty won from the 14th starting position here in 1986, the spring race.
And the second lap is quicker. He moves to the 114 slot with a 16.797, the speed 114.235. Labonte is still on the pole here at Bristol. As we are live for Busch 500 qualifying for tomorrow night's Winston Cup race here at Bristol International Raceway. At the moment, Terry Labonte holds the pole position. Jeff Bodine is second. Then Alan Kowicki and Harry Gant. Let's go to Dick Berggren.
Well, I'm with Darrell Waltrip. Darrell, of the people who are left, is anybody here strong enough to knock Labonte off the pole?
Nobody, no. That's just a tremendous lap that he turned. I don't even see anybody get close. I think it's probably anybody that could get close that took a shot at him. So that was a good lap.
Now, you're going to be starting a little bit further back in the field than it used to be. You had to start in the first 3 spots here in order to win this thing. Can a guy now win from more deep back?
Oh, easy. Yeah. I figure I'll be about 11th, and I've been working hard to get to where I could qualify 11th. That's a good lucky spot.
You've still got some time to work on your car. Is there more traffic yet or more practice yet for you to be able to work it out?
Oh, we got all day tomorrow, but the car's really good. It probably was a little too good for qualifying. I probably should have loosened it up a little bit. It's basically on a race setup, and we'll just see how the race goes. 500 laps here is anybody's show.
Okay, thank you, Darrell Waltrip.
All
Kenny
right.
Schrader coming up.
Yeah, and Rodney Combs has just qualified, but it was not good enough to move him into the top 15. Rodney clocked in a 1:11.042. But Ken Schrader is the next in line. Now, the cars that have been bumped from the fastest 15 at this point, Troy Beebe, Rodney Combs, Ronnie Thomas, and Derry Cope. The next to be bumped, the 15th fastest qualifier at the moment, is Rick Wilson, and Ken Schrader will be attempting to bump him out of the top 15.
Bob, two reactions to Waltrip. First of all, I agree about the starting position. You know, it used to be you had to start first or second at Bristol to win. 3 of the last 4 races had been won from 10th start position or worse. Now, as far as does anybody else have a shot, Darrell said no. I think that Morgan Shepherd does. Schrader, maybe a long shot, and maybe even a greater long shot, Neil Bonnet. But Shepherd is the guy that I want to see turn in his lap. I think he is a potential candidate.
First lap completed for Kenny Schrader. Not a very good lap at all. It is 17.262. That's a speed of only 111.157, and that does not move him into the top 15. Rick Wilson's safe at the moment. Let's see what lap number 2 brings for Ken Schrader. Wow, did he find a considerable amount of time and speed on that second lap. He's at 16.736, a 114.651, and he moves to the 3rd quickest qualifying performance of the evening. So from oblivion into the 3rd fastest spot.
Bob, from top to bottom, remember the spring race, just 0.3 of a second. The laps are only 17 seconds around, so one slight bobble. Remember that consistency that we talked about at the beginning of the show? One slight bobble will cost you half a second. Try and stop a stopwatch in a half of a second. It's almost impossible, so that's how that happens. The times are so close, and a half a second is absolutely astoundingly critical here at Bristol.
J.D. McDuffie hasn't won a pole position for a Winston Cup race since 1978. That was at Dover. That is his only pole position. The first lap for J.D. McDuffie in the McDuffie Pontiac is 17.662 seconds, and the speed not good enough for the fastest 15, 108.640 miles an hour. Now, just to give you an idea of the speeds the Winston Cup cars are turning, and those that have already qualified for the Busch Grand National race coming up in about a half hour here on ESPN. Mark Martin is the pole position winner for the Grand National race coming up at 1:17, and our best Winston Cup performance is a 1:15.7. Here's Dick Berggren.
And I'm with Kenny Schrader. Kenny, not such a good first lap, but a great second lap, good enough to put you in 3rd. What happened to the first one?
Well, we made some changes on the car, and we had the car just a little bit too tight. And that first lap, I smoked in there, and I just kept turning it and just kept legging it, thinking it'd turn. And when it turned all together. So we just kind of scrapped the first lap and concentrated on the second lap.
And I wonder if he could have told me that story if his hands were tied together. Cherry punch?
Well, Morgan Shepherd here, driver of the Quaker State Buick. And Morgan, the folks here think you may be one of the few guys left to run that can beat Terry Labonte. 15.576. Can you beat it?
Well, we just have to see, Jerry. The Quaker State Buick is running real good, and I feel like we do have a shot at it. I kind of had a 50 in my mind.
A 50, that's awfully quick. This is your racetrack. You won 3 of the last 6 Busch Grand National races, and you led a good bit of this race last year in the Raymont car. Why do you like this track so much?
Well, you know, everybody's got their favorite track, and Bristol seems to be mine. We get around it real good. It doesn't seem to make any difference what car I drive. We still go fast. The Raymont car was super good last year. Let's just hope I can get the Quaker State Buick run the same way.
Well, I'm sure car owner Kenny Bernstein's watching, and he's going to do all he can. He predicts a 50, possibly. We'll wait and see if Morgan Shepherd can back it up. As Dale Jarrett's on the racetrack.
Meaning, of course, a 16.50 flat, and that would be better than Terry's 16.576. On the racetrack at the moment, as you indicated, Jerry, is Dale Jarrett in the Friedlander Chevy, looking for his first ever pole position.
On TV, I've said this many times, I stand by my story. It looks so easy for race fans, let me guarantee you, as Dale Jarrett turns in his first lap at 17.37. It is not easy when you're out there. It's like a black wall that pops up in front of you every 5 seconds as you go around the high banks of Bristol. We're talking 35 degrees from relatively flat, wide open spaces going down those very short straightaways.
And Dale Jarrett will not make the fastest 15. He qualifies at 1:11.740. Buddy Arrington previously qualified while we were talking to Morgan Shepherd, and he did also not make the fastest 15. On the racetrack, a driver that was running very good in practice this afternoon here at Bristol. This is Bobby Hillin Jr. in the Miller American Buick.
They were having a good day, but note the difference in the atmospheric conditions and all the other factors that go into making your car go fast. A significant change from daylight racing to nighttime. When it's daylight, sometimes the track is like ice, and it can really bring about a tremendous change in the suspension setup, the springs that you select.
Bobby Hillin Jr. completing lap number 1. And it is just over 17 seconds. 17.225 on the time, and the speed 1:11.390. That's not good enough for the fastest 15. By the way, Bill Elliott is the 15th fastest, and he stands a very good chance of being bumped out of the first 15. Second lap for Bobby Hillin Jr. is quicker, 17.047, and a speed of 1:12.559, but that is also not good enough for the top 15. We'll be right back. And on to the Speedway right now in an attempt to make the Winston Cup race tomorrow night is a local hometown favorite, Brad Teague, driving car number 12, the Slender U Figure Salon Oldsmobile. By the way, Brad is one of those doing double duty here this weekend. He'll be competing in the Busch Grand National race coming up in a few minutes. He's qualified 27 for that race and looks to move into the Winston Cup field tomorrow night.
Time to adjust your television sets to color. Yes, that is a pink tail on that Roger Hanby machine with a bright red nose. And that's a tape measure going around, about 2/3 back of the car, going over the rear window.
May have a bit of a push in that car. It's just not going around the corners the way he would like for it to. The first lap for Brad Teague is 17.378 seconds. Speed 110.415.
Brad will give it a good ride. He's been on Bristol many, many times in his career, and he'll get out of it what's there.
Certainly a threat in the Busch Grand National race coming up. Second lap is quicker, but not quick enough for the fastest 15, 17.249. Speed 111.241. Next to go out will be Phil Parsons, and then after Phil is Morgan Shepherd, and that is the driver that many think is capable of knocking Terry Labonte off the pole position.
Also, as we watch Phil Parsons take his qualifying run, kind of turn your attention inside the cockpit and see how much work the driver is doing as he traverses just this half mile. It's actually 0.533 miles around. But you can see that Phil Parsons is lock to lock. They go around, as he goes around, turn number 1, turn number 2. As he goes into turn 3, the hand goes back and forth across the top of the steering wheel. Very heavy-duty work here at Bristol.
First lap for Phil Parsons is not fast enough. It's 17.267. And the speed report on Phil Parsons is 111.125. Here's a checkered flag for Phil. They're looking for a 113.010. That's Bill Elliott's 15th fastest. The second lap is faster for Phil, but not good enough. 17.125, and the speed 112.047. And next out will be Morgan Shepherd in the Quaker State Buick.
The sparks are normal. Bob mentioned that a little earlier, and the idea is you try to find the happy medium. You want that car to run on the speedway as low as you possibly can, and Morgan Shepherd is not going to be able to run his qualifying attempt.
Well, the car just did not go when he wanted it to. He's coming out of turn number 2 and punched it to go down the backstretch, and it just didn't go. So he'll drop in on the tail end of the qualifying line and get an opportunity a little bit later, but they're actually pulling the car into his assigned pit area. Now they have 5 minutes to get that car in working operation and on the qualifying line once again, and the clock has started.
He'll drop to the end of the line, and I believe he'll only get 1 lap when he comes out the next time. This is Steve Chrisman, the Indiana driver, commenting about those sparks again, that happy medium. You want the car to run as low as you possibly can, but obviously not so low so that it creates, in effect, a drag effect as it goes around the speedway. a high-bank half-mile racetrack is notoriously rough. You just can't make them sat in these human pits are going so fast in such a short distance that you're always going to get the bottoms touching at several places around the racetrack. But you have to find out what feels best for your car on that night.
It's 110.990 mile-an-hour lap for Steve Crispin, one of the Rookie of the Year contenders in Winston Cup. Second lap is completed, faster, but not nearly good enough to bump Bill Elliott out of the top 15 at 17.261 and a 111.164. Let's go to Jerry. Perhaps he can tell us what's wrong with that Quaker State Buick of Morgan Shepherd's.
Well, gentleman, Morgan still sits in the race car here. He says the car went out and just shut off going down the backstretch. He thinks he's got an ignition problem. They're going to change to the alternate ignition system. Larry McReynolds and the rest of the Quaker State crew are here working on the car. Now, under NASCAR rules, you have 5 minutes to get the car back on the line to qualify, or you miss your turn. So Morgan Shepherd here waiting and watching, hoping to get a chance to qualify, but Kyle Petty is already out there.
And he's looking for his first pole position ever in Winston Cup competition. Kyle has won Winston Cup races, but never started from pole. His first lap is 17.052 seconds, and the speed is 112.526, about a mile an hour off what he needs to go into the top 15.
On a dirt track, more often than not, the quickest line is right down on the bottom. But on a paved racetrack, particularly a bank track, not normally. You want to get up on the bowl where the banking and the centrifugal force will give you the most effect.
Second lap was quicker at 17.0111, and Petty qualifies at 112.798. We present qualifying for tomorrow night's Busch 500 Winston Cup race here at Bristol International Raceway. And in about 15 or so minutes, we will have the Busch Grand National race, a 200-lapper here on this racetrack. Now, Morgan Shepherd got the car fired, went out onto the racetrack, and completed only 3/4 of a lap, and he was red flagged, and we have yet to determine what the situation is regarding Morgan Shepherd. He had 5 minutes to get that car fired and onto the racetrack, and quite frankly, I don't know whether he made it or not. Jerry Punch perhaps can tell.
Well, they have signaled to let Morgan Shepherd crank the car and possibly go to qualify. They're still talking with Larry McReynolds, Eddie Lanier, and the crew behind me. You see him talking to the Quaker State Buick. Morgan's car still has a miss. It is not running on all 7 cylinders. He's going to try to make a qualifying lap and get the car in the top 15 possibly tonight. But they'll have to do a lot of work on the car before they get it back to speed for tomorrow night's race. Neil Bonnet on the Speedway for his qualifying effort.
And the Valvoline Pontiac. Neil Bonnet from Hueytown, Alabama, looking for his 21st career pole position. He hasn't won one, though, since 1985 at Atlanta.
Boy, it has been a long time for Neil. He's had one of the better seasons. We've commented on that many times in 1987. And really, it continues. They're concentrating a little more now on winning than they are consistency.
The first lap for Neil Bonnet is 17.111 seconds, speed 112.138. Again, they need a 113.010 to move into the top 15. Bill Elliott still has that 15 spot nailed down. Second lap is quicker, but just by a little bit, 17.069, speed 112.414.
Firing off Shepherd. Shepherd coming out now.
So obviously he made the 5-minute window that he had and now moves on to the racetrack to begin his qualification run. Well, since the car is not up to full song, we probably will not see Terry Labonte knocked off the pole, but let's wait and see what happens. The green comes out for Morgan.
This is Morgan's racetrack. Has been documented extremely well many, many times, so he knows the best line to run. So the big question, can the chassis and the suspension and the way that car is put together piece by piece compensate for an engine that is not completely at 100%?
It indeed is missing, and the first lap for Morgan Shepherd is not nearly fast enough. 17.104, he's shut it off. 112.184, and he will not complete lap number 2.
Now, of course, everybody will have an opportunity to qualify tomorrow. This does not mean by any stretch of the imagination that Morgan Shepherd will not be in the field for tomorrow night's Winston Cup race. And recall that Shepherd was recognized by everybody down in the pits as one of the strong runners. And I'll comment again, the last 3 winners of this race have come from a starting position, or like 3 of the last 4, I should say, have come from a starting position 10th or worse, including Rusty Wallace when he won last spring, starting from 14th.
Now moving on to the racetrack is a very colorful driver from Australia, driving The number 48 Hilton car is Tony Spanos, and he's only started in one Winston Cup event, and he finished 18th at Martinsville.
But they've been working very hard this year, Bob. They really have. I know Tony doesn't have any real results to show for his efforts yet, but they have been very loyal, very consistent. He could put his tail between his legs and start running, say, a lesser circuit and perhaps qualify consistently for the main events. Maybe even do well. But Tony has applied himself, remains loyal to Winston Cup racing.
Very slow lap for Tony Spanos. And the time and speed report is 18.790, speed 102.118. Here he comes off the fourth corner to complete the run. Now, remember, 34 cars are taking qualification attempt, and only 30 will start tomorrow night's race, so 4 cars aren't going to make it at all. Well, the 103.33 mile an hour second lap is faster, but, of course, not nearly good enough to crack into the top 15. Let's go to Jerry Punch.
Richard Petty, the most winningest pole driver that's active right now. He's won 6 poles here at Bristol International Raceway. His last pole came in 1979 here in the Busch 500. But more importantly, Richard feels like this is his track. He finished second here back in April to Dale Earnhardt. Feels like maybe tonight and tomorrow night will be his weekend to get his season turned around. Maybe the 7-time Winston Cup champion can do it.
Well, we'll see. Richard Petty needs a 16.576 to set on the pole, and he needs a 16.979 to make the first 15, and he did not on the first one. It's 17.191 seconds, 1:11.617.
That second place here in Bristol earlier in the spring was right in the middle of one of his hot streaks, so to speak, in the 1987 season. Richard has had a good one. He looked like he was close last week in MIS, but spun off on the final lap.
Second lap is quicker, 17.101, 112.204 for Richard Petty. And it appears as if that Bill Elliott will be the 15th and the 15th fastest qualifier. Bobby Allison is 14th, Benny Parson 13th, Michael Waltrip is 12th fastest, then Sterling Marlin, Dave Marcus, Darrell Waltrip, Rusty Wallace, Ricky Rudd, Dale Earnhardt, Harry Gant, Alan Kowicki, Ken Schrader. On the front row is Jeff Bodine and Terry Labonte. And our last qualifier of the evening is Jimmy Means from Huntsville, Alabama in the Eureka Pontiac.
Jimmy Means, talk about loyalty. Is there any more loyalty packed into the back pockets of any other Winston Cup driver than Jimmy Means, Buddy Arrington, and J.D. McDuffie?
And the first lap for Jimmy Means is 17.324 seconds, a speed of 110.760. And the checkered flag drops. Our final qualifier of the evening has completed his run with a 17.260, a speed of 111.170. So Bill Elliott is the 15th fastest qualifier here this evening. The very fastest, Terry Labonte. He'll start from pole tomorrow night.
We're still talking about Terry Labonte's great qualifying run here tonight, turning in a brand new track record. He got around just a little bit more than 16.5 seconds. He was the 3rd qualifier out here. We don't really anticipate that had anything to do with the superiority of his run, but Labonte is the 3rd qualifier. He trailed Sterling Marlin and Bobby Allison out, and he turned in a 16.5, and all those drivers who were performing well during the practice sessions this afternoon, who thought that they might have had a real clean shot at the pole, well, they go down with only second best, so to speak. There's a whole lot of them. Nobody really got close to Terry Labonte. Jerry Punch right now is with one of those people who thought he might have had a shot.
Great. Well, he thought he might have had a shot at qualifying. I think he'd like the shot tomorrow night better. A little irony tonight here, DW. Your qualifying spot for tomorrow and tonight, pretty similar.
Yeah, but let me tell you something I'm worried about. Last week I qualified 17th and I finished 17th, and I was driving car 17. Or no, I qualified 7th and I finished 17th in car 17. Tonight I qualified 9th in this race and 9th for tomorrow night's race. What does that mean?
Well, let's not talk about the figures. You won so many times here, though. This has got to feel awfully good. You got a light coming to this racetrack.
Well, I do, and both my cars are. This car is really good, and the car for tomorrow night is really good. I'm very happy with both of them. They're comfortable. I obviously need to win. This is the kind of race that I can win. It's always been the kind of race I can win because it's a long, hard, grueling race. You have to be patient. You have to stay out of trouble, and you got to keep up with the leaders. And then when when everything falls in place, you can take the lead and you can run away with the race. That's been my philosophy here through the years, and I think it'll pay off tomorrow night.
Well, I think it will, too. And DW will keep an eye on Darrell Waltrip tomorrow night in the Tide Chevrolet. And the fella he'll be chasing tomorrow night right now is standing with Dick Berggren.
Well, everybody's going to be chasing Terry Labonte tomorrow night for sure, Jerry. Terry, 4 poles in 1987, all track records. Well done.
Well, thank you. I tell you what, you just got to give all the credit to Junior Johnson and the Budweiser team. They built some awful good race cars, and, you know, when we got here today and unloaded the car, it just ran super right off the truck and makes my job a little easier.
Now, you for sure were watching qualifying. Based on what you saw, Terry, who will you be the most concerned about tomorrow evening?
Well, you know, of course, Dale Earnhardt's going to be awful tough. I'm sure Jeff Bodine's going to run good. Morgan Shepherd had trouble qualifying, but he's going to run well. You know, there's several other guys. You can go right down the list. There's a lot of good cars, got a lot of good drivers, and it's going to be a tough race.
And this guy's going to try to win it. Bob, who else is in the round?
All right, well, let's check the lineup as it stands right now for tomorrow's race. At least the fastest 15 on the pole will be Terry Labonte, Jeff Bodine alongside. In row number 2, Ken Schrader and Alan Kulwicki. Then in row number 3, it'll be Harry Gant and Dale Earnhardt. Going to row number 4, the number 15 car of Ricky Rudd and Rusty Wallace in car 27. In the 5th row, Darrell Waltrip and Dave Marcus. In row number 6, Sterling Marlin and Michael Waltrip. In row number 7, it'll be Benny Parsons and Bobby Allison. And in row number 8 will be Bill Elliott. Now, the exact starting lineup of the remaining cars will be determined in the second round of qualifying tomorrow afternoon here at Bristol International Raceway. So we now get set for the Tri-Cities Pontiac 200 Busch Grand National Race. 200 laps around this grueling 1/2 mile racetrack here at Bristol International Raceway. It should be a good one. Please stay with us. We'll be right back.